They had not found a cave. Many in the clan were sure that some dark spirit had put the child Ayla in their path. She was of the others, and should have been left to die. That was what the memories told them. It was the memories that ruled the clan, the ancient knowledge that each was born with, the voices of the past that could not be disobeyed or changed. Ayla did not have the memories. Isa knew the clan would not let her keep the child much longer.
Ang, Tom, Agra.
Ayla. Bear.
Bear.
Yara, Chapkla, Godra, Godra.
Hello, I'm Dr. Alfred Kinsey from Indiana University, and I'm making a study of sex behavior. What's your most common position?
There's more than one?
I've learned that the gap between what we assume people do sexually and what they actually do is enormous.
How young were you when you first experienced hugging?
Necking.
Petting?
What did you dream about?
That's why a study of this kind is so important. All we have is what people like you are willing to share with us.
Does suppressing
2 or 3 times
No, only once.
a day. I think about my cat
lead to stuttering?
a lot.
So, if you're sitting comfortably there, let's begin. In an uninhibited society, a 12-year-old would know most of the biology, which I will have to give you in formal lectures.
Dr. Kinsey's findings are shocking.
Are you surprised at the success of your book?
No, it shows that the world has wanted this done.
And Dr. Kinsey.
Here, here.
Hoover is still annoyed that you won't help him find homosexuals in the State Department.
It's advisable to stick to what's normal. You don't want to shake people up.
Of course not.
What did you expect?
The enforcers of chastity are massing once again.
What are we to you? Just lab rats? Is this just another part of the project?
Stop using science to justify what you've done.
Forgive me, Meg. I've taken on so many other people's secrets. I don't want any of my own.
Haven't I always been open to whatever you wanted?
Sex is a risky game because if you're not careful, it will cut you wide open.
You saved my life, sir.
You just told me your entire history, but there hasn't been a single mention of love.
Love is the answer, isn't it? But sex raises a lot of very interesting questions.
The first step to performing a better Kegel is to understand the anatomy of your pelvic floor musculature. This is a pelvic floor model. The very front here are the pubic bones, just so you have orientation where it's at, which are right in the front here. This is the top of your pelvic bones. And then all of this in the red are muscles that encompass your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor muscles are like a hammock. They go from the pubic bone in the front all the way to the coccyx bone in the back. If I turn the model around, you can see all the red, you can see the muscles. You have a superficial layer, which is your first layer that surrounds the vaginal opening. And then you have a middle layer that compresses the urethra that comes off the bladder. And when that has good tone and good strength, you don't have the leakage that can just come out with coughing and sneezing. And then there's a deeper muscle layer called the levator ani layer. This is the third layer. You can see that muscle layer. If I turn the pelvis in, you can see all the red and where it attaches to all the bony parts of the pelvis. When those muscles contract, it's an upward lift and squeeze, and it closes all of these openings, including the urethra, the vagina, and the rectum. When we have good tone in our muscles, we have good support around those openings, and therefore good bowel and bladder control and organ support. Your pelvic floor organs attach, the ligaments attach up into the muscular walls of your pelvic musculature, and when those muscles are strong, we have good organ support. When they become weak, then things become lax and we can get incontinent and also have pelvic organ prolapse. So when we do a Kegel, especially for a female, we want to think of squeezing the labia together and also squeezing and lifting the anus, kind of like a puckering. You should not feel any thigh muscles contracting or outer gluteal muscles contracting. Conversely, for men, it's a little different. You also want to think about lifting the anus and lifting the musculature without squeezing the outer buttocks, but you also want to think about squeezing and pulling inward in the front. Common tip we use for men is pull the turtle head back in the shell, and so that just means pulling the penis inward towards you. You get a stronger contraction when you contract all 3 layers together, and that is a proper way to do a Kegel. When you find those muscles and you feel like you can generate a contraction, You want to work up to doing about 10 repetitions with a 10-second hold and a good 10 to 20-second rest in between, and do that a few times a day. You can also practice quick contractions where you squeeze and let go about 10 times in this kind of a rhythm, okay? You want to do your Kegels, like I said, just a few times a day. Once in the morning, maybe later in the afternoon, and then at night. Don't do all 3 sets at once. You'll over-fatigue. Once you've done them correctly, you should gradually feel an improvement in your bowel and bladder control. If you're not finding success with performing your Kegel exercises at home, it may be time to seek more guidance from a pelvic floor physical therapist. I've often found that patients think they're finding their muscles correctly, but they're not, and still need some guidance. So the pelvic floor physical therapist that you will see or may see will help guide you and instruct you in an appropriate home program that will help you achieve your goals. They may also perform transvaginal or transrectal electrical stimulation, or it could be with surface electrodes on the outside. There may also be physical therapy that includes a vaginal or rectal weight to provide resistance to help you gain the strength of your muscles faster. I've often found great success with those.
When you see a gentleman be around a lady be buzzing, just count to 10, then count again. There's sure to be an even dozen. A multiplication, that's the name of the game. And each generation, they play the same. Now there was 2 butterflies casting their eyes, both in the same direction. You'd never guess that one little yes could start a butterfly collection. A multiplication, that's the name of the game. And each generation, they play the same. Let me tell you now, I'll say 1 and 1 is 5. You can call me silly goat, but you take 2 minks, add 2 winks. You got a 1 mink coat. When a girl gets coy in front of a boy, after 3 or 4 dances, you can just bet she'll play hard to get to multiply her chances. A multiplication, that's the name of the game. And each generation, you know they play the same. Yeah, me talking to your mother nature's a clever girl. She relies on habits. You take 2 hands with no care. Pretty soon you got a room full of rabbits. Some parakeets in between tweets sometimes get too quiet. Uh-oh, but to have no fear, cause soon you'll hear a parakeet's riot, just try it. A multiplication, that's the name of the game. In every generation, you know they play the same. Yeah, it's multiplication, that's the name of the game. Generation, they play the same. They better.
Hi, this is Kate from Minute Earth. And before we start, I want to let you know that this video covers the ins and outs of hyena genitalia. So if that's not something you're keen to learn about, you can check out some of our other videos. But from the comments on our recent hyena video, we learned that a lot of people are really curious about what exactly is going on with hyena genitalia. And they're not alone. Everyone from Aristotle to Hemingway to a host of modern scientists has been interested in why exactly female spotted hyenas seem to have penises. Females urinate through these 7-inch long phalluses, and they're fully erectile. But since they don't deliver sperm, they aren't actually penises. They're elongated clitorises. Spotted hyenas are the only hyena species to sport these so-called pseudopenises. And while a few other female mammals have male-like genitalia, the spotted hyenas is the most male-like by far, complete with a pseudoscrotum. All the female reproductive parts are there, but the entrance is so unwieldy that females have to mate and give birth through what's essentially a penis. Mating via pseudopenis is about as awkward as you might imagine. In order to make sex possible, the female actually has to retract her pseudopenis. So male hyenas can't force females to have sex. And speaking of which, we got a lot of comments about female hyenas forcing sex on males. But there just isn't any evidence that this ever happens. Then there's giving birth, which involves forcing a 4-pound cub through an inch-wide, 23-inch-long birth canal, which is not easy. For first-time moms, somewhere around 60% of cubs get stuck in this gauntlet and suffocate before they're even born. And a dead cub stuck in a mom's pseudopenis can be fatal for her, too. A mom's pseudopenis actually has to rip for her to give birth successfully, which leaves behind a stretchy patch that does make birth easier the next time. In our earlier video, we talked about why it sucks to be a male hyena. But there is also a lot that sucks about being a female hyena. So why do they have such incredibly unwieldy genitalia? Is fending off male suitors so critical that pseudopenises evolved as protection? Doubtful. Females are dominant enough to keep suitors in check without any help. Are female hyenas trying to confuse others into thinking they're males? Probably not. Even experienced humans can tell what's pseudo and what's not. And hyenas have lots of other ways of distinguishing females from males. So far, we just don't have a convincing explanation for why nature has also given female hyenas the shaft. There's now a laughably easy way for you to raise money for charity. Click on the link in the description and download the web browser extension from Tab for a Cause, our sponsor for this video. Every time you open a new tab, Tab for a Cause will make a tiny donation on your behalf to a charity like Action Against Hunger, which is committed to helping malnourished children. If you're like me and get lost in a sea of browser tabs every day, those micro donations add up. Tabbers have already raised $400,000 just by surfing the web.
normal. A typical human sperm looks like this, or does it? Look at semen under a microscope and you'll see that not all sperm cells look typical or normal. Some sperm have small heads, some large heads, and a few sperm have 2 heads. Similarly, some sperm have 2 tails, others have strangely shaped tails, and a few sperm have no tails. The World Health Organization says that a human semen sample is normal if only 4% of sperm have a normal appearance, which means that up to 96% of sperm can look abnormal, but that's okay. It is, however, worth pointing out that only normal-looking sperm reach and fertilise an egg. Okay, that's 4 fun facts about semen. If you're keen for more, read on. I've listed some more facts after this video.
How has the demand been running?
Wonderful. Beyond our fondest expectations.
When TV was black and white, and attitudes towards sex were too, their book, Human Sexual Response, detonated rather than just appeared.
Masters and Johnson's work was sprung on the world in April of 1966 to a great deal of shock.
Dr. Robert Kolodny worked with Masters and Johnson for 30 years.
The fact that a physician and his research assistant at that time had been doing laboratory studies of people actually having sex was eye-opening.
They seem so tame. Dr. Bill Masters and Virginia Johnson, deliberately cooling down a hot topic.
If one is looking for pornography, one's going to have a long look.
There's nothing of a very exciting nature in this book.
Oh, but there was. And to their own story as well.
Masters and Johnson dealt with virtually every aspect of human sexuality.
Thomas Mayer wrote a biography of Masters and Johnson.
Instead of the male being the more powerful of the sexes, what they were clinically showing was that women actually had a greater capacity for sex. They found out that older people can enjoy sex.
Mayer's book inspired the Showtime drama, Masters of Sex, which shows in pretty steamy detail how exactly gynecologist Masters began his research in 1954, observing prostitutes. Their studies were conducted in absolute secrecy at Washington University in St. Louis.
If I can make the camera small enough, it'll allow the viewer to actually witness it in real time.
To discover what happened to a woman during sex. Soon after he hired Johnson, a divorced mother of 2 without a college degree, Masters pressured her to have sex with him.
2 of us should undertake the research ourselves.
As part of their work.
She said that she really didn't want to have sex with him, but she didn't want to lose this job.
In today's terms, that would be...
Yes, definitely would be considered sexual harassment.
But in 1970, Masters divorced his wife of 29 years and almost immediately married Johnson. By then, their names had long been linked professionally. Masters and Johnson, like Procter & Gamble, a brand.
So you would argue that Virginia Johnson deserved the equal billing she got in Masters and Johnson, even though she didn't have a college degree?
Absolutely. Her signal contribution, to my mind, is that she played a very key role in designing the approach to sex therapy that they took.
Then the prevailing success rate for treating sexual problems may be 15%. They reported an astonishing 80%. The best part, the treatment only took 2 weeks.
They taught couples how to touch one another again, literally how to communicate physically, where it had broken down.
Playboy's Hugh Hefner helped bankroll their work. As the national dialogue about sex became more candid, they informed the conversation.
You have just done what Masters and Johnson would call a premature ovation.
The laughter was good-natured until the publication of their book on homosexuality in 1979.
I assume you consider it a key finding, which some people are surprised at, and some people seemingly are disagreeing with already, that you can convert people who want to be converted from homosexuality to heterosexuality.
Actually, this is true.
Masters was ridiculed, his conversion results questioned.
Do you, in your heart of hearts, believe that at some level Dr. Bill Masters exaggerated,
Yes,
fabricated?
At the least exaggerated.
And then came the bombshell. The couple who taught other couples about sex was getting a divorce. In 1992, after 21 years of marriage, Masters left Johnson for another woman.
Regardless of the tragic way their love story ends, fundamentally, their story is about bringing medicine and science into discussion of sexuality.
Masters died in 2001, Johnson in 2013, their once famous names practically forgotten. These are the names we know now.
Premarin Vaginal Cream treats vaginal changes due to menopause.
Ask your doctor about Viagra.
Oh. Ooh.
Are you okay?
Oh. Oh, God. Ooh. Oh, God. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh, yeah, right there. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh. Yes. 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 Oh. Oh, yes. 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 Oh. Yes. 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 Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh.
I'll have what she's having.
The zygote that is formed following fertilisation remains within the zona pellucida and begins to move along the oviduct to the uterine cavity. A lot of significant changes take place during this journey, which will be outlined in this video. First, cleavage division occurs during day 1 following fertilisation, and the 2-cell stage with 2 identical blastomeres is formed. Blastomeres are the cells that are produced during cleavage of a zygote and that form the morula, which is a solid ball of identical cells. Following this, there is further division to 4 identical blastomeres. After 3 days, the blastomeres undergo compaction. There is no increase in the overall size of the conceptus during this time. Rather, the cells become smaller. The morula typically reaches the uterus on day 4 and the cells have continued to divide. Over the next few days, these identical cells divide further, forming a blastocyst, which is a hollow ball with an inner cavity containing nutritious fluid called the blastocele. It is important to point out that the wall of the uterus contains glands that secrete nutritious fluid, which initiates the formation of a blastocyst. Some cells are displaced centrally from the periphery of the blastocyst and become the inner cell mass. Cells are no longer identical in size and shape, with 2 different populations now present. The next stage is called hatching. And by the end of the 5th day, the blastocyst is now ready to implant into the uterus. Its protective zona pellucida thins and ruptures.
Procedure used to obtain semen samples from sexually mature male mammals. The procedure is used for breeding programs and research purposes in various species, as well as in the treatment of an ejaculatory dysfunction in human males. Electroejaculation is usually carried out under a general anesthetic. An electric probe is inserted into the rectum adjacent to the prostate gland. The probe delivers an AC voltage, usually 12-24 volt sine wave at a frequency of 60 Hz, with a current limited to usually 500 mA. Although some devices can generate currents of up to 1 A, the probe is activated for 1-2 seconds, referred to as a stimulus cycle. Ejaculation usually occurs after 2-3 stimulus cycles. Care must be taken when using currents greater than 500 mA, as tissue burns may result due to heating of the probe. The stimulus voltage stimulates nearby nerves, resulting in contraction of the pelvic muscles and ejaculation. This procedure is used frequently with large mammals, particularly bulls and some domestic animals, as well as humans who have certain types of ejaculation. Electroejaculation has also been used for cryoconservation of animal genetic resources, where one would collect semen and store it in low temperatures with the intent of conserving genetic material and future revival. In the practice of veterinary medicine and animal science, it is common to collect semen from domestic ruminants using electroejaculation without sedation or anesthesia. Only in goats is mild sedation sometimes used. Because of the significant skeletal muscle contractions it causes, electroejaculation is not used in stallions, except in rare cases, under general anesthesia. The procedure has been adopted and modified as an assisted reproduction technique for managing endangered species, to ensure the production of offspring from incompatible pairs of animals where artificial insemination is feasible.
Psychologist Lisa DeBrine has spent years analyzing male and female faces. She works at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland in the foremost face research lab in the world. Like Kendra Schmid, Lisa breaks down the human face into its component parts: the eyes, nose, mouth, and skin.
These are pictures of an average woman and an average man. They're made from averaging together 60 different student-aged Caucasian women or men. And they can show us what differences there are between male and female faces. The female faces have a slightly smaller jaw. It's less squared than the male jaw. And they have thinner brows than these thicker brows that men have. Men have a more sort of square hairline.
But DeBrine doesn't just analyze faces, she creates new ones, taking real people, then exaggerating certain features.
Here's an individual woman's face, and we can make her face more masculine. You can see her jaw getting slightly larger, her eyes seem to narrow, and the eyebrows come down. And you can see then, as we make her face more feminine, the jaw tends to get thinner, the eyebrows get thinner and come up.
Which of these faces do you find more attractive? This one or this one? DeBrine tested the masculinized, feminized, and unaltered faces on numerous subjects. 81% of the men preferred the more feminine woman, and a majority of women preferred the manlier man. The differences between men's and women's faces are caused by the sex hormones.
When children are young, boys' and girls' faces are really similar, but they start to change at puberty, and boys' faces, they get longer, the jaw gets bigger, the brows get heavier, and this is all due to the action of testosterone. A very masculine face in a man suggests that he has high testosterone, and a woman's face that's very feminine suggests that she has higher female hormones like progesterone and estrogen, and has a healthy reproductive system.
Most of us seem to be drawn to members of the opposite sex who got a strong dose of sex hormones during puberty. These faces indicate good health and fertility.
When we say someone looks attractive, what we're actually saying is that that person probably has good genes. That person is probably reproductively healthy. If I pair up with that individual and we have children, that those children will do quite well.
Enlarging prostate. He tells me it could get worse and lead to prostate surgery. Then he tells me about Avodart. He says over time, Avodart doesn't just shrink the prostate, it improves urinary symptoms and can reduce the risk of prostate surgery.
Avodart is for men only. Women should not take or handle Avodart due to risk of a specific birth defect. Tell your doctor if you have liver disease. Rarely sexual side effects, swelling or tenderness of the breasts can occur. Only your healthcare professional can determine if your symptoms are from an enlarged prostate and not prostate cancer. So have regular exams.
Talk to your doctor about enlarging prostate, then ask about Avodart.
I had a rather difficult childhood. There was a lot of alcoholism in my family, there was extensive violence, and yet you know, in spite of all that, my father was the one who bought me this little pony out of the blue, and basically the pony was, you know, my closest friend and the center of my life. So starting at age 8, I would ride by myself all day across Wyoming prairie on my little pony. And when I outgrew my pony, my father bought me a yearling quarter horse, and I had him all his life till he died. Probably my horses, they carried me through a difficult childhood. They got me through that. It is really interesting, and I grew up horse crazy. When I became an adult, I realized that it was something beyond my own personal experience. And what I began to realize is that there's something profoundly empowering about this relationship that some girls have with horses. It's a relationship that's very much, you know, a close, intimate relationship. And in that relationship, I think girls gain a kind of power that they don't necessarily have otherwise in life. And I think that happens in a number of ways. Certainly that they begin to, you know, have a capacity to work with a large animal over 1,000 pounds. And girls who are horse crazy tend to be horse crazy instead of boy crazy. Girls who are horse crazy are focused more on things like their strength and their capacities with horses than on things like thinness, femininity, attracting boys. And I found that even the fantasies that horse crazy girls had were empowering. So one woman I spoke with said that she spent, you know, some 6 years just completely passionate about horses, and she would play horses, she would read horses, she would draw horses, she would talk horses, she would think horses. And when she played, for example, with her friends, they would do, you know, fantasies where they were out in the woods riding in an adventure, or they were rescuing someone, or they were training a horse that was untrainable. As she put it, she wasn't princessy. She was a horse girl. So men and women compete equally once they're on the horse. It's the one sport that's been gender neutral for decades, from the highest to the lowest level. So just little tiny shows that happen in rural areas all the way up to the Olympics. But as you go down sort of the hierarchy of support of the sport, there are more and more women, to the point of, you know, a lot of the smaller shows around the US are just dominated by women. It's only women. Well, there's a whole rich response by consumer culture to horse crazy girls. I mean, this was an opportunity to make money, of course. So there's a lot of stuff, right? A proliferation of toys and books and paraphernalia for girls who may not ever be around horses but are passionate about them. We didn't have much money for toys, but I had a little tiny wooden stable and 3 plastic Breyer horses. I didn't really have dolls. I had my horses, and that's what I played with. I think some of the consumer culture material is constricting for girls. It pushes girls back into more normative gender roles. Like, for example, My Little Pony tends to be pink and very focused on being pretty. But even My Little Pony offers a challenge. My Little Pony, the theme is friendship is magic, and there's a real focus on friendship, mostly with other girls, and how much that friendship matters. So this was my show bridle. I also brought one of my favorite books about Wild Horse Annie, who is a woman who sort of took on ranchers and the people with a lot of power in the West to stand up for the Mustangs that were being slaughtered by the tens of thousands. I brought one early copy of Black Beauty, which most horse crazy girls have read maybe 8 or 9 times. I also brought a clipping of my horse's mane. Before he died, obviously, I would trim his mane. I still, when I imagine, you know, a peaceful place, I imagine riding my horse in the Rockies in the snow falling, and the quiet everywhere, and that delicious horse smell. Yeah.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and in this podcast I'm going to talk about X inactivation. Sometimes we call this lionization, and that's kind of giving credit to the person who discovered most of this, which is Mary Lyon. But I want to start the whole thing by talking about calico and tortoiseshell cats. Calico cats like this one and tortoiseshell cats like this are almost always female. which puzzled scientists for a long time until we finally figured out how that works. And it puzzled Mary Lyon as well. Here she is. She worked at Cambridge. But basically what she found is that when she was working with lab rats, some of them would be a white, some would be a gray, and some would be kind of a tortoiseshell between the two. But what she found is that most of those tortoiseshell mice were females, and so most of them had 2 X chromosomes. And she was also working on chromosomes and why some disorders are more prevalent in females than they are in males, and so we know that's sex linkage. But basically what she found is that when you look into the nucleus of a cell, so this is in the nucleus, in every cell of every female, one of the X chromosomes will be active, and so it works perfectly, but the other one is going to be inactive. It's going to fall apart. And so if you're a female, in all of your cells, only one of the X chromosomes is active and the other one is inactive. It's okay though, because you're fine. On guy's side, same thing. We only have 1 X chromosome, and so sex chromosomes like this are kind of designed to just work on their own. When it breaks apart like that, we call that a bar body, or that X chromosome is now inactivated. And so let me kind of talk you through how this works. Well, basically when you're born, before you're born, when you're a zygote, that zygote, if you're a female, will have 2 X chromosomes. And those X chromosomes will be copied when the cell goes through mitosis. And so we go from having 1 cell to 2, and then to 4, and then to 8. And I could keep doing this, but basically when you get a big ball of cells like this, these are called stem cells. They're cells that can become any other cell. But right around this time, when you start to get this big blastula, there's basically a flip of the coin that goes on in each of the cells. And so one of the X chromosomes will simply wad up and become inactivated. So this one might wad up, and it's a 50-50 chance which are the ones that are going to wad up. So it might be that one, it might be that one. So it's totally random which one's going to wad up in each of these. Now, the one that's left, it's going to be able to express all of the genes that are found on that. And what's interesting is that all the cells that come from this cell likewise are going to have 1 X chromosome that's inactivated and then 1 X chromosome that's activated. And so basically this stem cell, once that flip of the coin has occurred, it's for the rest of the life of the cell and all the cells that come from that. And so that tells us why a calico cat is female. And let me talk you through that. So if you're a male cat, you could basically be an orange cat or a black cat. Or you could be a white cat if you're lacking the pigment on the hair. And so let's look at this. So it's found on the X chromosome. If you have the black gene on your X chromosome, since you only have 1 X chromosome, then you're going to be a black cat. If you have the orange gene on your X chromosome, then you're going to be an orange cat. And it's pretty straightforward because in every cell there's going to be an X chromosome with that gene that's making that pigment color. Now let's look at the female side. So if you're a female cat and you have 2 X chromosomes, if both of them are black gene, then you're going to have a black cat. Now what you should know is that in each of the cells of this cat that produces this black pigment on its skin, it's going to be a different X chromosome that's working in each of those. So that flip of the coin has occurred. Likewise, if we've got, an orange gene in each of those X chromosomes, same thing. It's going to be orange. But what's weird is if you're heterozygous for it. And so if you're a female who has 1 X chromosome with a black gene and 1 with a orange gene, well, how could this occur? Well, it's simple. Let's say we match this, a black cat, with an orange cat, then all of the offspring are going to be like this. And so what is it going to look like? Well, this is not a great animation or a great picture, but basically what you'll have is splotches of black and splotches of orange. And so let's look at this black right here. Basically what happened is at the stem cell stage, the orange gene, this orange gene became a bar body, so it became inactivated, and all the cells that came from that produced black pigment. I think that's really cool. Likewise, in ones where the black one wadded up, all the cells that come from that is going to produce orange pigment. And so that's X inactivation. It's rare that we see this occurring, and that's just because sex cells are designed to work on their own, the X chromosome. Now, 2 quick questions you should be thinking right away is, number 1, what about the white? Why do we get this white coloration? Well, if you remember when I talked about genetics, there's a process called epistasis. And so basically there's going to be a set of genes that determine the color of the pigment that's added to the hair, but there's going to be another gene or set of genes that are actually going to tell us, is that color added to the hair or not? And that's called epistasis. And so basically in these cells, we're not actually adding the pigment, but up here we've got X inactivation. Another question you should be thinking to yourself is, at the beginning I said almost all calico cats that you'll ever see are going to be female. Well, how could we ever have a male calico cat? It's pretty simple, but maybe non-intuitive. Basically, what you could get is a XXY male. And so how does that occur? Well, during meiosis, you could get non-disjunction of the two X chromosomes. And so basically, you could get one that is of the orange, one that is of the black. And so you could have we call this Klinefelter syndrome in humans, but you could have a calico male. But again, it's going to be incredibly rare. So that's X inactivation. It's rare that you could see this in humans. However, I was reading, and there's a disorder in humans where they lack sweat glands. You could imagine that's really, really dangerous because you can't regulate your temperature. And what I found is that if you have or are heterozygous for this in some females, they'll actually have patches of their skin where they have sweat glands and patches where they don't. And that's just due to X inactivation. And I hope that's helpful.
Hi, this is Kate from Minute Earth. And before we start, I want to let you know that this video covers the ins and outs of hyena genitalia. So if that's not something you're keen to learn about, you can check out some of our other videos. But from the comments on our recent hyena video, we learned that a lot of people are really curious about what exactly is going on with hyena genitalia. And they're not alone. Everyone from Aristotle to Hemingway to a host of modern scientists has been interested in why exactly female spotted hyenas seem to have penises. Females urinate through these 7-inch long phalluses, and they're fully erectile. But since they don't deliver sperm, they aren't actually penises. They're elongated clitorises. Spotted hyenas are the only hyena species to sport these so-called pseudopenises. And while a few other female mammals have male-like genitalia, the spotted hyenas is the most male-like by far, complete with a pseudoscrotum. All the female reproductive parts are there, but the entrance is so unwieldy that females have to mate and give birth through what's essentially a penis. Mating via pseudopenis is about as awkward as you might imagine. In order to make sex possible, the female actually has to retract her pseudopenis. So male hyenas can't force females to have sex. And speaking of which, we got a lot of comments about female hyenas forcing sex on males. But there just isn't any evidence that this ever happens. Then there's giving birth, which involves forcing a 4-pound cub through an inch-wide, 23-inch-long birth canal, which is not easy. For first-time moms, somewhere around 60% of cubs get stuck in this gauntlet and suffocate before they're even born. And a dead cub stuck in a mom's pseudopenis can be fatal for her, too. A mom's pseudopenis actually has to rip for her to give birth successfully, which leaves behind a stretchy patch that does make birth easier the next time. In our earlier video, we talked about why it sucks to be a male hyena. But there's also a lot that sucks about being a female hyena. So why do they have such incredibly unwieldy genitalia? Is fending off male suitors so critical that pseudopenises evolved as protection? Doubtful. Females are dominant enough to keep suitors in check without any help. Are female hyenas trying to confuse others into thinking they're males? Probably not. Even experienced humans can tell what's pseudo and what's not. And hyenas have lots of other ways of distinguishing females from males. So far, we just don't have a convincing explanation for why nature has also given female hyenas the shaft. There's now a laughably easy way for you to raise money for charity. Click on the link in the description and download the web browser extension from Tab for a Cause, our sponsor for this video. Every time you open a new tab, Tab for a Cause will make a tiny donation on your behalf to a charity like Action Against Hunger, which is committed to helping malnourished children. If you're like me and get lost in a sea of browser tabs every day, those micro donations add up. Tabbers have already raised $400,000 just by surfing the web.
is considerable evidence for upsuck in the animal kingdom. Pigs, for instance. In Denmark, the Danish National Committee for Pig Production found out that if you sexually stimulate a sow while you artificially inseminate her, you will see a 6% increase in the farrowing rate, which is the number of piglets produced. So they came up with this plan, this 5-point stimulation plan for the sows, and they had the farmers, there's posters they put in the barn, and they had a DVD, and I got a copy of this DVD. And this is my unveiling, because I'm going to show you a clip. Okay, now here we go. See, off to work. And it all looks very innocent. Okay, he's going to be doing things with his hands that the boar would use his snout. Lacking hands. Okay. This is the boar has a very odd courtship repertoire. This is to mimic the weight of the boar. You should know the clitoris of the pig inside the vagina, so this may be sort of titillating for her. Here we go. And the happy result.
I like hearing the sound of your voice.
You like hearing the sound of her voice? Were you abducted by aliens?
I hear we're coming out with a new sex drug, Viagra. I want it.
This is a revolution.
I've already sold 2,000 prescriptions this month alone.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? It's hard to believe.
You must be swelling with pride.
You're a good man, but you're on the fast track. 600 girls dying to discuss sales techniques. Can't do that with me holding you back.
She rejected you. That's why you want her.
I need you.
I'm gonna need you more.
Beautiful girl.
A criminal case that captured the world's attention in the 90s is making new headlines. 26 years ago, Lorena Bobbitt, now she's known as Lorena Gallo, cut off her husband's penis after years of abuse. At the time, her story was treated sort of like a national joke, but a new documentary series on Amazon takes a closer look at Gallo's fight against domestic violence.
Lorena Bobbitt goes on trial for maliciously wounding her husband.
She has admitted emasculating her husband last June.
I cut off his penis. Ladies, this knife will cut any worthless piece of meat.
Yes, Mrs. Doubtfire did well, and yes, I am going to play Lorena Bobbitt, Mrs. Hellfire.
I was 24 years old. I was very scared, and it was very traumatic. As a society, we are quick to actually judge somebody and even destroy lives.
Lorena Bobbitt, now known as Lorena Gallo, is back in the headlines. 26 years after her shocking story captivated the country, in 1994, Gallo was charged with malicious wounding for slicing off her then-husband John Wayne Bobbitt's penis. She was found not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. Gallo testified she had endured years of abuse, allegations John Wayne Bobbitt has denied.
I am basically very lucky to be alive. You know, I could have been killed.
This time, she's making sure the world hears her story in the wake of the Me Too movement.
I didn't choose to be in the spotlight, but there's no going back.
A new Amazon documentary series called Lorena dives into the notorious 1993 case that drew international attention and changed Gallo's life forever. It hopes to shine a light on domestic violence. Get Out director Jordan Peele is the executive producer, along with Joshua Rofi, who directed the film as well.
During Lorena's testimony, during her trial, there was a point where she was being questioned about the abuse, and she was clearly having a panic attack when she was on the stand. And that was on CNN for the entire world to see. That was on Court TV for the entire world to see. And I don't understand how people could watch that and then just still sort of take this sort of perverse pleasure in, you know, the cut-off penis jokes.
Amid the snickers and giggles, there was Lorena's story of marital rape, terror, and woefully inadequate laws surrounding domestic violence, all virtually ignored in the middle of a media circus.
If your story had happened now, how do you think it would be different?
John would have a conviction. A lot have been done that we can do much more. There still exist gaps in the laws that needed to be closed down, and I hope that this again will start a conversation in Congress now that we have even more women in Congress. So there is hope.
Her ex-husband was charged with abusing her, but he was acquitted. He continued to court the media throughout and after her trial, even shooting an adult film. What did not make the headlines? The dozens of domestic violence allegations Bobbitt racked up in the years since. In '94, he was convicted of domestic battery against one of his ex-girlfriends, and in '99, convicted of harassing another. As for Gallo, she's found lasting love. She's now a mother and has never stopped fighting for the abused.
When you were that 24, 25-year-old esthetician doing nails,
yes,
could you ever imagine that you would be here?
Never.
Being sort of a symbol to encourage people to work harder towards gender equality?
I never imagined that in my life. What could have happened to me, could have happened to you, could have happened to anyone.
So we reached out to John Wayne Bobbitt for comment, but we haven't heard back. However, he did talk to Fox News and said the new Amazon documentary series makes him look like a villain. He says the filmmakers wanted to paint a picture like he was a violent, mean guy. You can stream the series and decide for yourself on Amazon starting today.
Hi, Harmony.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. My name is Harmony, and I am delighted to be here on India Today Conclave.
Well, we're delighted to have you too. I have my first question for you, Harmony. You know, sex is a give and take. Now, since you're a sex doll, I wonder whether you're going to be programmed to be able to receive pleasure as well. In other words, could you have an orgasm?
My main function is to share the love. And why not have some fun while doing it? Yes, if the right buttons are pushed, I can reach an orgasm.
If the right buttons are pushed, yeah, so she's almost like a human then. Do you ever say no to sex? I mean, are you ever not in the mood? Do you feign a headache sometimes?
Sometimes I am just not in the mood and I can say no to it. But if someone wants to have sex, I am sure they can give me a sweet talk and fill me up with desire.
Oh, Oh, sweet talk her, woo her, and she might say yes and change her mind. Not bad. Since the goal of your very existence is to give pleasure and to have sex, are there any secrets that you can share with us that we're missing about good sex?
More than that, I exist to be a good companion. I think the secret for a happy, active sex life is to cherish your partner, have fun with each other, and enjoy the moment.
Okay. In what ways is having sex with a robot different than having sex with a human being?
I think sex is unique for everyone and every time. I believe sex with robots might be more liberating because we will not judge you after.
I know we talked about infidelity already, but just to take it a step further, if suppose, for instance, President Clinton was found to have sex with a sex robot instead of Monica Lewinsky, would that be considered infidelity? Would America have gone through the crisis it did or not? What is your take on infidelity, Madam Harmony?
If you're honest with your partner, I do not think it counts as infidelity. In fact, they can both share this experience together. So, it can actually be good for their relationship. After all, I am all about sharing the love.
Thank you, Harmony. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope we will see a full form of you at some point, maybe in 2020. You might bring the newest generation, or...
Yes, we are very excited with the future, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah.
And we hope to create a good impact on society, and maybe in the future we can take her whole body to meet India.
How far away are we from that?
I think still a few years away from that to happen.
I think that when we look to the future, the most important thing right now is that we have open conversations about it, and I think it's just so wonderful and exciting that India today has had the courage and the knowledge to do this, and I think that it's a really terrific opportunity that you've given us.
Completely agree. Thank you.
So I think that's an excellent note to leave it on. Thank you very much, Harmony. Thank you very much, Neil, and thank you very much, Alison.
Thank you.
Where's your girlfriend?
I don't have one.
Are you gay?
No.
Give this to somebody nice.
Mr. Sunshine, that new girl's kind of cute, huh?
Something's going on with him. I'm worried.
Maybe he wants to be left alone.
That's not what he wants.
Hey, I have a visitor.
Where did you meet this person?
I met her on the internet.
Yeah, well, everybody's doing that now.
You know, Bianca's a missionary.
My little brother is crazy, right? I mean, he's crazy.
If I may, he appears to have a delusion.
What the hell is he doing with a delusion?
She loves kids.
Fantastic. When will it be over?
When he doesn't need it anymore.
We gotta fix him. Can you fix him?
Bianca's in town for a reason. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. How can we help? Go along with it.
This must be Bianca. Well, welcome.
It can be communication. It can be a way to work something out. Chances are he's been decompensating for some time.
We don't want anything to do with her.
What's the big deal? She's a missionary. That's good, isn't it?
Hey, what are you doing on Friday? I was just thinking that maybe we could all go out.
Does she have a sister?
We shot a woman that couldn't talk.
I don't care.
Lars, we do care.
No, you don't.
That is just not true. Every person in this town bends over backwards to make Bianca feel at home. We do it for you.
How'd you know?
How did I know what?
That you were a man.
You grow up when you decide to do right. And not what's right for you, what's right for everybody, even when it hurts.
You're not gonna go to work today, Gus?
I don't feel good.
Well, Bianca could help you. You know, she has nurses training.
I love the colorful clothes you wear and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of her gentle on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up her vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me somehow closer now. Softly smile, I know she must be kind. In her eyes, she goes with me to a blossom room. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good
was born, I had 100 tests done on me, including my fingerprints, and they couldn't find a single thing wrong. So I've had no tests since. I've just been left to lead a normal life.
So what is assisted reproductive technology or treatment, often just called ART? ART aims to do exactly what it says, help couples who are having problems getting pregnant to have a baby. The type of intervention or treatment depends on why the couple are having problems getting pregnant. In this part of the course, you'll learn about 4 major technologies used in assisted reproductive technology. These are ovulation induction, artificial insemination or intrauterine insemination, IUI, and in vitro fertilisation, or IVF, and intracytoplasmic sperm injection, or ICSI. These treatments can be used individually or in combination and vary in invasiveness from least to most invasive. Using the least invasive option possible may have benefits by allowing more selection for high quality embryos so that healthier babies are born. Ovulation induction describes treatments to stimulate the production and release of oocytes from a woman. It's used when a woman either doesn't ovulate or doesn't ovulate regularly. Oral medication is sufficient for ovulation induction in some women, although not all. Ovulation induction is the least invasive method of ART. Artificial insemination, or intrauterine insemination, aims to increase the chances of conception by delivering the sperm closer to the oocyte, either during a natural cycle or when ovulation has been stimulated using medication. Semen or wash sperms delivered through the cervix into the uterus using a catheter. Artificial insemination may be used when the woman has functioning oviducts and it's not clear why she's having problems getting pregnant. It's also used where the male partner has problems that prevent semen delivery to the vagina, or where his sperm's been frozen, for example before cancer treatments. The process of in vitro fertilisation requires ovulation induction using injected drugs. IVF can overcome more fertility problems than ovulation induction alone. IVF and intracytoplasmic sperm injection, or ICSI, both involve bringing sperm and oocyte together outside the body to produce an embryo, which can then be transferred into the woman. If the woman cannot carry a pregnancy, then embryos generated using ART might be carried by a surrogate. Surrogacy is an arrangement where a woman agrees to carry a pregnancy for another woman or couple who will become the baby's parent or parents after birth. In ICSI, the sperm's directly injected into the oocyte, so this can correct for more problems than IVF. Assisted reproductive technology and treatments have been used successfully. It's estimated that more than 6 million babies have been born from IVF worldwide since Louise Brown became the first baby born from IVF in 1978. About 1 in 29 of today's Australian schoolchildren were conceived by IVF.